Hey, what's going on guys? It's Anson here, and today I'm going to show you guys how to set up automatic deployments with Github Actions. Now before we get started, I want to go ahead and give Brad another huge thank you for allowing me to do this video on his channel. Once again, I really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get started with talking about what exactly is an automatic deployment. So let's just say, for example, this is my live application right now. Anyone can go to this IP address, they can see this application. Now let's say I want to make some changes. Let's say I don't like how this logo is over here, or let's say if I want to add some other text, whatever it is that I want to do, I want to make a change. So I'm going to go to my code, and for example, I'll just add a simple h1 tag over here, and I'll just say hello world, and I'll save. Now I'm going to go ahead and stage all of my changes with git. So I'm going to say git add, and I'm going to create a commit message. So let's just say test commit message. And once I'm done reviewing all of my changes, I'm going to go ahead and just push. So this is going to push to our remote GitHub repository. As you can see right over here, you're going to see it says test commit message. Now, if I click on actions, you're going to see that we have all of our jobs that are being running, or jobs that have ran in the past. So if I click over here, this is the current job that's in progress. You're going to see, if I click on build, we have a bunch of scripts that are being ran in a sequential order. So the first thing that happened was we set up a job. It run actions/checkout version 2. It uses Node.js version 14. Okay, I'm not going to explain all this just yet, but what's going to happen is that a bunch of different scripts are being ran every single time we make a push to our repository. And once everything has succeeded, what's going to happen is our application is going to get auto-updated on the production server, okay, on the live server over here. So this is going to take a couple of minutes. Usually takes about probably like a minute or so. You can actually look over here. It will tell you the approximate amount of time it took. So some of my jobs took 1 minute, some of them took 2 minutes. But you can see the job just finished, okay, and everything succeeded, which is good. And since everything succeeded, if I refresh the page, you're going to see it says hello world. Okay, see how that works? So that's what I mean by an automatic deployment. Instead of having to manually transfer all of our files over and over again from our local host all the way to our production server, we can actually do something like this where we can set up a GitHub action. It'll run all of the necessary scripts that we want it to run. Once everything has succeeded, we can refresh. All of our customers can see the live application. So hopefully this makes sense, and let's go ahead and get started from the very beginning on how to set this up. Okay, so the very first thing that we want to do is create a brand new GitHub repository. So we're going to click on new, we're going to click on over here, and we'll give it a name of React.js tutorial. So we'll create the repository, and what we're going to do is, I actually already have a brand new React project, so let me just actually open that up. Okay, it's brand new, we're going to start from scratch. So what I need to do is I need to actually add that repository as remote for this Git repository. So I'm going to do git remote add origin. Now you guys probably already have this already, so you can just skip this step. I don't have this Git repository attached to any remote, so that's why I'm adding it. But I'm going to go ahead and just simply stage all of our changes. We're going to make a commit message, and then we're just going to have to push everything. So let's do that real quick. Like I said, you guys probably don't need to worry about this because you already have everything set up already. Okay, so now I'm going to push all of my changes. So now you should see we have our changes on GitHub. Okay, so that's fine. So now the next thing that we need to do is we need to make sure we create a workflow. So we're going to go over to actions right over here, and you're going to go ahead and look over here. We have get started with the GitHub Actions. There's a whole bunch of different environments that GitHub Actions supports. But for this tutorial, since we're deploying a React app, we're going to click on Node.js, set up this workflow right over here. Okay, so we just click on this, and now we can actually customize this. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit. Now you can actually change the name of this YAML file. Okay, so this right over here is a YAML file, and pretty much we're going to just customize it to what we need. We'll go through it very briefly. So over here we have the name. Okay, we have on over here. So this part is important. Basically, this tells GitHub when to actually trigger the job. So we want to trigger it whenever a user creates a push to whatever branch. So you can see it says on push, and then we can specify all the branches. So if you want, you can create a separate branch and you can only listen to changes on that branch. But for our case, we'll just leave it alone for master branch. You can also make it so that whenever a pull request happens on master branch, it will also trigger that job as well. But I'm going to go ahead and delete that because we are not going to be dealing with pull requests. And now we also have line number 10, we have jobs right over here. So this pretty much is going to be a job that's going to be run every single time this workflow file is going to be triggered. So whenever we make a change, whenever we push to the master branch, it's going to run this job right over here. Okay, so we can specify where it runs on. So over here, we're actually going to change this to self-hosted. Okay, because we're going to be running the GitHub Actions runner on our virtual private server. Now over here, this is what's called the strategy matrix. So you can specify which versions you want to test against, which versions you want to run your jobs for. So you can specify node version 10, 12, and 14. Because let's say, for example, you have different versions that are being run. So what's going to happen, it's going to run 3 jobs. It's going to run all of these jobs for version 10 of Node.js, all of these jobs for version 12, and then all of these jobs for version 14. Okay, but in our case, we're only going to leave it for version 14, so we'll just leave that alone. But again, if you want to specify multiple different versions to run this job in, you can do that. Okay, so now this part is where we're going to specify all of the scripts, all of the steps that we want our job to execute. So over here, you're going to leave all of this alone. This is default, so just leave that part alone. But right over here, we have run npm clean install. I'm going to change this to install. And then after we install all dependencies, we want to run the build. Okay, so npm run build. And this is an if present flag, so we'll only run it if the build script is present, which it is for our React app. We do have a build script right over here. Okay, and then we have npm test. So this is going to run npm test right over here, so that'll run all of the test cases. Okay, so that's going to be pretty much it. We're not going to change anything else for now. I just want to show you guys what actually happens. Okay, so remember, all we did so far was we have it so that it's only going to listen to events whenever we push to the master branch. So let's go ahead and let's just commit this directly to the master branch. So you're going to notice that if we go over to actions, there should be, yep, wherever we have a workflow that's being run right now, it's going to fail. The reason why it's failing is because it says no runner matching the specified labels was found self-hosted. The reason why this is happening is because we haven't set up an actual runner on our server yet. Okay, because we're using self-hosted, we need to make sure we actually have a runner on our virtual private server that's listening to jobs. Okay, so every single time we make a push to the master branch, our server is going to listen to that job and it's going to run all of the necessary scripts that we want it to run. So we're going to go over to settings right over here. We're going to click on actions and you're going to leave enabled local and third-party actions for this repository. And then we're going to click on add runner. And right over here, you're going to select Linux right over here or whatever operating system you're using, but I'm going to select Linux. You can also specify the architecture, but we're going to leave that alone. So now everything from here is pretty straightforward. All you need to do is just run all of these scripts over here. So over here, we're going to create a folder called actions runner and it's going to cd into it. So I'm going to copy that. Now on my server right over here, I'm on my other account right over here. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste that. So now we're inside the actions runner folder because that's what this just did. It created a new folder and it cd into it. We're going to download the latest runner package. So we're going to copy this. Okay, again, it's very straightforward. We're going to go ahead and enter that. It's going to download that file. Okay, it's a .tar.gz file. And if I type ls, you're going to see that that file is right over here. Once we have downloaded that file, we're going to extract it. So we're going to copy this. It's basically just going to extract that file we just downloaded. Okay, and you can see that we have all of the files over here that are extracted. You can actually delete this .tar.gz file. I'll do that right now. Okay, there we go. All right, so now that we've downloaded everything and extracted everything, we need to configure everything. So we're going to go ahead and copy this line over here. This is going to basically run the .sh, the config.sh script. Okay. So you can see right over here we have the config.sh file over here. We're just going to run it. Okay. Now, if you actually are using the root account, it's going to give you an error. Well, it's going to tell you must not run as sudo. So if that happens, what you need to do is you need to actually run this script over here. I know this is actually an issue that some people have had. If you actually Google it, you'll actually see must not run with sudo. Okay, that happens because you're trying to run as the root. You can actually just export agent allow run as root equals to 1, and everything else should work. Now, obviously, you probably shouldn't use your root account in general, but if you need to, then go for it. But if you run into that issue, like I said, just run this command and it should work just fine. I actually ran into that issue myself, so when I ran the script export agent allow run as root equal 1, it actually fixed it for me. So it should definitely fix it for you guys as well. But if that doesn't work out, then just create a new user account on your server and then just run all the steps. But you can see nothing went wrong. Okay, so we can go ahead and continue with the installation. So it says enter the name of the runner. So I'm going to call it GitHub, or actually I'll call it a React app. Okay, now I'm going to skip this part. This is for labels. I'm going to skip it. Okay, so now it's going to ask you to enter the name of the work folder. So you can leave it by default _work, but I'm going to call this React app. Okay, so now you're going to see that right now we actually don't have anything. We don't have the work folder. We don't have anything. That's because we haven't ran any jobs yet. But now if I actually refresh this page, or actually I'm going to click on actions again, you're going to see that it's actually offline. We need to make it go online. So what's next is actually we need to go ahead and do .run.sh. So we're going to execute this bash script, so ./run.sh. Okay, there you go. It says connected to GitHub, listening for jobs. Okay, so if I click on actions, you can see our GitHub action runner is currently idle. It's online, but it's idle. So now if I want to run my jobs right now, so I'm going to go ahead and click on rerun jobs. So if something fails, you can actually go back to actions. You can click on the job that failed and you can rerun it instead of having to push everything all over again. So you can see that it's queued. Let's go and build, and let's actually see what happens here. And we can also look at our logs where you can see that running job build 14.x, and you can see what's going on over here. It's going to basically use Node.js version 14. Okay, it's going to run npm install. So this is going to install all of the dependencies. It's kind of like whenever you clone a project from GitHub. If you're cloning a Node.js project, you have to run all the dependencies first. The reason why is because you don't commit your Node modules folder and you don't push that to GitHub. So it's going to run all of these scripts over here. So it usually takes about like a minute or so. It depends on how many dependencies you're installing. I know if you actually try to do this with an Angular app, it'll actually take a lot longer from experience, because for me it took about like 3 minutes. But that's because Angular is a lot larger than React. But this should take at most, I would say, 1 minute. Okay, so you see that's done. So now it's going to run npm run build. So that's going to build the entire React project into the bundled assets, the static files. And then you can see that succeeded, and it's going to run the test script. That's also going to succeed as well. And there you go. So we're done. Now the problem here is that if I actually exit out of here, the GitHub action is not going to be running anymore. So what we can do, you can see it says offline, right? What we can do instead is we can actually run this svc.sh. That's also a bash script as well. We can run it. If I actually type help, we actually see it says must run as sudo. So we actually have to type sudo ./svc.sh. If I type help, you're going to see, let me type in my password. Okay, so you're going to see that we have a bunch of different commands. Okay, it tells you how to use it. So we have install, start, stop, status, and uninstall. So we need to actually install this as a service. So we're going to type sudo ./svc.sh install. So this will pretty much create a symlink for us. And then once we're done, we need to type start. If you actually type status, you'll see that it's currently inactive. Okay, that's because we need to have it started yet. So let's start it. And there you go. If I type status again, it's running on the background as a service, which is good. And even if our server were to restart, like if it rebooted, it would still start up as a service, which is awesome. Okay, so now I can basically create a bunch of different deployments. I can pretty much create a bunch of different commits and then push it. And then this will always trigger a new workflow for us. Okay, it'll trigger a new job, and then it will automatically give us the latest changes. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually take this project and reflect it onto our server, because this is still pointing to the old project. This is the demo project that I was showing you guys. We need to actually have all of this being shown on our server. Now to do that, we actually need to use something called NGINX. Now you can actually use Apache if you want, but NGINX is going to be just fine. Alright, so if you guys don't know what NGINX is, it's basically a very popular web server, and you can use it for many different things, such as a reverse proxy as well as a load balancer. Now we're going to use NGINX to pretty much route our website to whichever path that we want it to route. Okay, so right now this is the main route over here. So NGINX will pretty much say, hey, look, at this route, we're going to serve all of these static files. So if you guys don't have NGINX installed, just pretty much install it. You can go ahead to your terminal and just type sudo apt install NGINX. And now this will install it. Now I already have it already, so it's just going to say, this over here. We already have it. That's fine. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So now that you have NGINX installed, you can verify that it's running by typing sudo systemctl status nginx. Okay, and it should say active. Now if it's not running, you can just simply say sudo systemctl start nginx. Now I already have it started already, so that's not going to do anything. Okay, so let's go ahead and configure our nginx config. So I'm going to go ahead and cd into /etc/nginx. This is where the nginx folder is, and we're going to go inside sites available. Now if I type ls, you're going to see we have this default file over here. This is our nginx config. Now we have to run this as sudo, and I'm going to go ahead and edit this default file over here. Now I'm going to go ahead and use Vim. You guys can use Nano or whatever text editor you want, but I'm just going to use Vim. But I would suggest you guys use Nano. It's probably a lot easier. But what I'm going to do is you can see that I already have this config already, and it was actually pointing to this build folder. Okay, that's the folder where all of my bundled assets from the React project is. Okay, so we're going to actually have this pointing to something else. If I actually just delete this, or if I just do this, and if I want to verify that all of my changes are valid, I can type sudo nginx -t. I'm going to go ahead and restart nginx, and you're going to see it says forbidden. That's fine, don't worry about it. Okay, so what we want to do is we actually want our nginx to point to the build file for our React project. Okay, so let's go back into the main folder over here. Let's go into Actions Runner. So I seeded back into the main, and you can see that I'm inside Actions Runner. Now you can see that we have this React app folder. Okay, remember this was the name of the folder when we were installing the Github Actions Runner. This was the work folder. We're going to seed it into here. So this is going to be named whatever it is that you named it. And you're going to see we have a bunch of different files. The only folder that we need to worry about is this React.js tutorial Github Actions. So this folder is going to be dependent on the name of your repository. So I'm going to cd into that folder. Now there's going to be another subdirectory, so just cd into that again. Now you can see all of the files that are from your GitHub repository. So basically what happens is every single time you run a new push, it's going to basically clone the repository into here, and it's going to run all of the scripts. So now if you look at the build folder, we have all of our files over here. We actually want to point nginx, we want to tell nginx to point to this folder over here, because this is where all of our static files are. So I'm going to copy this path over here. Okay, I just type pwd, and then that'll give me this path. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the default file. Okay, so that's sudo vim /etc/nginx/sites_default or /sites_available/default. And I'm going to go over here. So for root, I'm just going to have it mapped to, instead of /var/www, I'm going to have it mapped to this. And now let's go ahead and exit. Let's restart, and now if I refresh, you can see that we have our React app. All right, so that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and make some changes to our app. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this image. I'm going to delete this import, and let's just go ahead and create a div, and just say hello world. And I'm going to go ahead and stage all of my changes. I'll commit. And let's push. Let's see what's going on over here. Oh, you know why? Okay, so the reason why this is happening is because we actually, I completely forgot about this. Okay, so right now you're gonna see that it says it failed to push. The reason why is because when we created our repository, we made a commit, okay, and then we also created a workflow. Now the workflow is not on our local repository just yet. So before we push, let's just actually pull. So we pulled, and that should give us our workflow. Okay, we'll have all of the latest changes from the master branch. Okay, and we can actually just edit the workflow over here too. Now, let's go ahead and leave this all alone, and let's go ahead and just push. So now that should work. Okay, so now that's gonna push. You can see it says, there we go. It says it was a merge, but it was actually just a pull, and then we committed. Okay, that's fine, but it should just create another job though with the latest build. So let's see. Okay, so it's gonna run npm install. Okay, and it's going to currently right now you can see that it says 404 not found. That's because all of our files were replaced already. Okay, so once the build is done, if I refresh, you can see that our app is still here. But then yeah, everything is pretty much good to go, and you can see our latest changes are reflected on the website. Okay, you can see that we had removed the image, we had added the hello world over here. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how to set up a domain name just real quick, because it's actually very simple. Okay, so to set up your domain name, it's actually very simple. So I personally use Namecheap. That's where I buy all of my domains. You want to click on settings over here, and then you want to go over to domain. And where you see name servers, by default, it won't point to custom DNS. You want to have it point to custom DNS, because by default, it points to Namecheap basic DNS. And you basically want to enter all of the DigitalOcean name servers. So for example, ns1.digitalocean.com, ns2.digitalocean.com, and then ns3.digitalocean.com. So once you have done that, you want to go over to your control panel in DigitalOcean. And what you want to do is you want to create an A record over here. Okay, so I already have one already, but you just go to A, you just type @ and have it direct to your IP address over here. And you click on create record, and that'll pretty much create this record over here. So it might take some time for it to actually update, but that pretty much is the necessary steps that you need to do for your domain name to actually work. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys one more thing. So in case if you're using React Router, because I know most of you guys probably might be using React Router or any kind of routing. So I set up a simple routing with React Router DOM. And right now you can see that I have two routes. I have the slash route and I have the dashboard route. So I just deployed it again. So if I go to /dashboard, this should actually show the dashboard page, which it does, so that's good. Okay, so if I go back here, it'll go back to home page. So the React Router will work just fine. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how to deploy the backend now. It's actually going to be very easy. So I already have a repository that I created. I cloned it, and then I already set up the simple Express application. Like I said, this is not a tutorial on Express. I just want to show you guys how to use Github Actions. So we're going to go ahead and just stage everything. We're going to create a commit. So we'll just say backend, and we'll just push everything to GitHub. Now nothing's going to happen because we don't have the workflow file. So we'll set that up real quick. So I'll set up this workflow. And again, we're going to change this from Ubuntu latest to self-hosted. And we can change this to just run on 14.x. Okay, and I'm going to leave everything else alone. And instead of npm clean install, I'll just do npm install. We don't have a build script, so that's fine. We also don't have a test script. So actually, this is a very simple Express project. So if you have other things such as test cases, or if you're using TypeScript and you're trying to build everything down, so you can definitely do that as well. So you just need to make sure you have the actual script over here. Okay, so since we don't have any of those scripts, I'm just going to get rid of them. So now we're going to go ahead and commit this. Okay, and let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now what we'll do is we will just simply let me just git pull on the local repository so we have the workflow file. And I'm going to go ahead and set up the runner on our backend for this repository. So you need to set up a new runner for every single repository. I don't think you can set up one runner for multiple repositories. I don't think that's possible. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow the same steps again. We're going to create a new folder, but this time I'm going to create a new folder, call it Express Backend. And I'll just cd into there, and I'll just do the same thing. I'll download the latest runner package. I'm going to extract the installer. Once that's done, we're going to run the config.sh file. Okay, so that's going to do the same thing we did before. And we'll just leave everything alone. Okay, and the work folder, we'll just call this Expressjs app. All right, so we're pretty much good to go. And again, we want to run this as a service. So what I can do is I will do sudo /svc.sh install. Okay, so that's going to create a symlink for that. And now I can go ahead and do sudo ./svc.sh start. There we go, our runner is active. And now if I click on actions again, you can see that if I refresh, it should say idle now. Before it was offline, now it's idle. Okay, so now if we type ls, you can see that I don't have any of my code in this folder. But let's go ahead and rerun this job. So let's rerun it. Okay, so that's going to, it should be pretty fast. It shouldn't take too long because this is a very lightweight application. Usually for like your React, Vue, or Angular app, those will take probably like, 2 minutes, 3 minutes at most. For your Express app, it's very lightweight, so it shouldn't take too long. You can see it just install. You can see it just installs it, and we're done. It took literally like, 10 seconds, 22 seconds. And now if I type ls, you can see that we have this Expressjs app folder. Okay, let's cd into there. Let's cd into Expressjs back. And remember, this folder inside that work folder is going to be reflected on the repository name. And we'll just cd into that again. And you can see we have all of our code. The problem here is that our backend isn't running right now. So we need to actually run it. Now we're going to go ahead and use a package called PM2. So we're going to install it using npm. Now PM2 stands for Process Manager, and we can use this to pretty much run our applications on the back end for as long as we want. So let's install it real quick. Now I'm actually going to get an error because it's going to say that we don't have permissions to install this package globally. You're going to see that's going to fail. Okay, so you can see that it failed. It says permission denied. Now there's a couple ways that you can fix this. Just for this tutorial, and I do not recommend you guys do this, I'm going to use sudo. Okay, but do not do this. Okay, I'm just only doing this for the tutorial purposes. Instead, what you should do is you should set the owner of this folder to this Anson account over here. Okay, or you can just create a separate global folder that will have all of your node modules installed there globally, and then you can set the config registry. But just for this sake, I'm just going to install this with sudo. But like I said, do not do this. I'm only doing this for the sake of demonstration. Okay, there we go. So that was successful. So now I'm going to do PM2 start. And I'm going to go and reference app.js. I'm going to give this a name. I'll just call this backend API. Okay, there we go. So we just start this as a background service. So now this will run indefinitely. If I type PM2 logs, you can see that it says running on port 3000. Now if I want, I can actually go to port 3000 just like this, and you can see that it'll just say hello. And if I want, I can also go to the other routes that I had created. I think I created what was it? Let's see. /hello /dashboard. Okay, there we go. So now here's the problem though, right? When we actually run this job over here, it doesn't actually restart the app. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit our workflow file. And right over here, we're going to execute this script. We're going to just do run PM2 restart backend API. So this is just going to run that script over here. So once everything is done, it's going to just run PM2 restart backend API. So that's the name of our app. Okay, because you cannot start up applications with Github Actions. Yeah, so this is going to work just fine. So it's going to restart the API. Okay, so I'm actually going to just do this. I'm going to type PM2 logs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just do this. I'm going to say message hello, status 200. And I'll also do status 201, for example. And now let's go ahead and deploy this again. So git add, git commits, test. Git push. So this is going to take roughly like 30 seconds, like I said. So let's just take a look at the build. So you can see that it's going to, yep, it restarts everything. And if I actually look over here, you're going to see that it actually just got restarted. Okay, it stopped the API and it started again. Okay, that's what restart does with PM2. Okay, so now if I go over here, if I refresh, see how it says status 201? So that was an automatic update. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to address is how to actually make it so that instead of having to visit port 3000, how do we actually make it so that it'll actually just go to the API without having to specify the port? Because you don't want people to actually reference this. It's never a good idea to actually allow ports like this to just be open. So what we're going to do is we're going to type sudo ufw status. You're going to see that for me it's inactive. So I'm going to go ahead and just enable it real quick. And it's going to say command may disrupt existing SSH connections. So I'll just proceed. That's fine. And let's type this again. Now I'm just going to go and do this sudo ufw allow SSH. And I'll also allow HTTP. So if we try to go to ansonphone.com, you're going to see it's not going to work. Okay, because we have port 80 disabled. But if you actually type sudo ufw allow nginx full, and if we type sudo ufw status, you can see that right over here it says allow anywhere, and then right over here, perfect, that's fine. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now if we try to go back to over here, you're going to see it's not going to work because port 3000 it's not that it's disabled, it's just that our firewall is not allowing that port to be accessed. So we can do something like sudo ufw allow port 3000, okay, and this will work just fine, but we don't want to do that. Okay, you don't ever want to just randomly allow random ports to be enabled. So let me go ahead and just deny this real quick. So I'll just disable that. Okay, you can see port 3000, deny. Okay, so now you can see that it's not going to work anymore. If I try to go to any of these routes, it's not going to work. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to take advantage of NGINX and use NGINX to pretty much forward all those requests to our API to port 3000 through NGINX. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and edit my default file. That's from the /etc/nginx/sites available. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create another location block right over here, and I'm going to give it the route of API. Okay, so we're going to need to make some tiny changes to our code in just a sec, but this is what I normally do. I create this /API route, and I do a rewrite with NGINX. So what this is going to do is going to rewrite the route, and it's basically going to capture every single route parameter. So for example, it's going to capture every single route parameter after /API. So we'll use a regular expression for that. So that's going to capture everything after /API/. And what I want to do is I want to capture every single thing after it. Okay, and once that's done, we want to actually forward it to /API/$1 break. Okay, so let me actually explain what's going on with a regular expression tester. So pretty much this regular expression is going to capture everything that comes after /API/. So if we put that regular expression right over here, you can see that in the green, this is everything that is being captured. Okay, this is a capture group. You can see on the right hand side, group 1, we have dashboard /12345. Okay, same thing over here, we have guest and we have payments. So every single time we make a request to our website, it's going to reference this /API route, and then we're saying, hey, look, capture everything that comes after that /API route right over here. And once we've done that, it's going to be captured and it's going to be stored inside this $1 variable. So whatever comes after /API/, that's going to be the value of the $1 variable. And we're basically saying, hey, look, we're going to do a proxy pass. So we're going to pass in all of this with /API/ prefixed, and then the value that was captured. So all of that is basically going to be proxy passed down into our backend API. So it'll actually hit the correct endpoint. The reason why we have this /API route over here is just to make sure that we're not conflicting with any of the client-sided routes of our React application. And then we're going to simply just do a proxy pass, and we're going to proxy pass it down to localhost port 3000. Okay, so like I said, it's going to take this route right over here, and it's basically going to attach in front of this HTTP/localhost port 3000. and so our API will actually be hit correctly. So this is why we need to actually configure our backend real quick. So we need to change it from /hello/dashboard. We need to prefix it with /API in front of it for this to work. Okay, so let's go ahead and save, and what I'll do is I'll go over here and I'll actually just do this. I'll do that and I'll restart. Okay, so now watch this. Okay, if I try to go here, that's going to take us to the front end route over here. Right? That's going to take us to the React app. But if I try to go to /API/dashboard, it's going to say cannot get API dashboard. The reason why is because we need to redeploy. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so this should take about 30 seconds. Shouldn't take too long. So in a couple seconds, it should just take us to our endpoint. Okay, so if I refresh, you can see that it takes us here now. So now we don't need to reference port 3000. If I want to go to /API, that'll work as well. If I want to go to hello, that'll work as well. And this will not affect our routes over here. Because if we don't add that /API route, it's actually going to conflict with our front end routes as well. So that's why personally for me, I usually just add a /API route over here. So what's going to happen is NGINX is going to say, hey, look, if you're trying to visit anything that starts with /API, we're going to let you do that. We're going to capture every single route parameter after, and we're going to basically add it in front. This is what the $ is with the regular expression. We're basically using a capture group to capture everything that comes after /API/, okay? And then we're going to rewrite it so that it's going to proxy pass everything to localhost port 3000 with the correct routes. So essentially what's happening is if I try to visit ansonfong.com /API/dashboard, what's actually happening with NGINX is it's taking this route over here, right, this everything after here, and it's going to proxy pass it to localhost port 3000, and it's going to give us a dashboard, or sorry, not a dashboard, API/dashboard. Okay, so this pretty much allows us to make requests to it without needing to reference the actual port itself. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a little bit weird, but all you need to really understand is that we have two routes. Okay, we have / and then /API. This location / should be responsible for all of the routes for React. So if I were to visit /dashboard, that would be for the React route. But anything that starts with /API has to do with the backend. So you need to make sure that on your React app, you actually don't have a route called /API, because if you do, it will actually conflict with the backend. And let me show you that real quick. Let me go into my React app, and I'll just add another route, and I'll call it this /API, and we'll just let it map to homepage. Okay, so let's go ahead and deploy this. Okay, so now our code has been deployed. We're gonna let it do its thing. Okay, so watch this. So it works, and if I try to go to /API, you're gonna see that we're trying to visit the React route, right? On localhost, this is gonna work just fine. Is our app even running? I don't think so. So this is gonna work just fine on localhost. You can see it's working just fine. But on the front end over here for our production server, you can see it's trying to go to the backend API because that's the route over here. That's this /API route. So you can see we have a conflict. So just make sure that you don't create any endpoint that matches some kind of route on the front end. Otherwise, there's going to be confliction. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is set up a server block. This will pretty much allow us to deploy multiple different websites very easily because we don't want to do everything inside the default server block over here. So I'm going to go ahead and type sudo cp. We're going to copy defaults, and we're going to name it as ansonfong.com. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit ansonfong.com. And what I want to do is right over here where we have server name, it's going to be the same exact thing as default, but we want to actually change the server name to point to our domain name. So we'll type ansonfong.com and then www.ansonfong.com. This will actually be very important because if we want to install a SSL certificate, this is how we'll do it. We need to make sure it's named after it, after our domain name. Okay, so everything else from here is going to be the same exact thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and exit. And we're going to go ahead and create a symlink. So we're going to type sudo ln-s. And we need to reference the absolute path. It's not going to work if you use a relative path of this server block. And we want to link it to the sites enabled folder. So this will enable our website. Now if I type sudo nginx-t, you're going to see that it fails. And the reason why is because we actually have a duplicate default server. So to fix this, we're going to edit our domain over here. And we're going to just remove default server. Just like that. Whoops. Okay, so now if I type sudo nginx-t, it succeeds, and I'm going to go ahead and restart NGINX. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to install a certificate for a website, because right now you can see it says not secure. So of course you want to install a certificate. You want to secure your website. So we're going to use Let's Encrypt. So what we're going to do first is we're going to install certbot. So we're going to type sudo add apt repository ppa certbot/certbot. Okay, so let's just let that do its thing, and we will enter. And then we're going to go ahead and install certbot. So we're actually going to go ahead and type in Python 3. Okay, so let's just type y. Okay, so that's going to install certbot for us. Now we need to also make sure we are enabling HTTPS through the firewall, but we already enabled nginx full, so that's fine. All right, so now we need to obtain an SSL certificate. So we're going to type sudo certbot-nginx-d and then the name of our domain, so ansonphone.com, and you also want to do www.ansonphone.com, and actually there should be a lowercase d right over here, sorry about that. Alright, so now it's going to ask us for our email address, so I'll just type that in. So once you've done that, it'll just tell you to agree. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the reason why we're actually getting this issue is because it's actually failing to find the www domain. So I think we need to actually go inside our DigitalOcean and add another, we need to actually attach another name record. Okay, so we only have this right over here. We need to actually add one for www. So I think after adding this, it should successfully do the trick. So let's actually try this again. So let me go ahead and enter. Okay, I don't need to enter anything anymore. Okay, yeah, so it seems like that had fixed it. Now you can see it says, please choose whether or not to redirect. Let's actually redirect, so let's type 2. Okay, and there we go. So now, if I go back here, if I refresh, you see now it is secure. If I go over to dashboard, it is also secure. If I go to /API/dashboard, it's also secure as well. So that's good. So we have our certificate enabled across our entire website. And this is pretty much the same process that you would do if you want to set it up for any other website, any other domain name. It works the same way. So that's pretty much going to be it for this whole tutorial. Once again, I want to thank Brad so much for allowing me to be on his channel once again. I really appreciate it. And hopefully this video made sense to you guys. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.